Video of the financial heart of Hong Kong. This video from a little bit earlier in the day. Thousands of pro-democracy protesters remain. They are refusing to budge. They want Beijing to stop what they see as interference from Beijing in the city's affairs. For its part, China's foreign ministry said, quote, that it firmly opposes illegal activities that undermine the rule of law in Hong Kong. Now, on Sunday night, it was a very, very different situation. Riot police, they used batons, they used pepper spray, and even tear gas on the protesters. In all, more than 40 people were injured, including 12 police officers. Now, the protesters say that they will continue to occupy parts of Hong Kong until voters have a greater say in who runs for chief executive. That's the top elected position here in Hong Kong in 2017. Now, scenes of unrest that we've been seeing here are remarkable because this city just doesn't experience this. Now, people here in Hong Kong have a history of organized protest marches, but the magnitude and the level of organization in these marches is perhaps unprecedented. Now, let's show it to you on Google Earth. This is the main road connecting the eastern and western parts of Hong Kong Island. Now, demonstrators have blocked it for 2 straight days, effectively cutting off road traffic and dividing the island in half. And Sunday's tear gas, it was a sight not seen here in Hong Kong for many, many years. The last time it happened was during the World Trade Organization summit back in 2005. But that was a demonstration against the WTO. What's happening now, is the first time in decades that police have deployed tear gas against Hong Kong people protesting for the future and the political fate of Hong Kong. Now, CNN senior international correspondent Ivan Watson, he was in the middle of it all last night. Ivan joins me now live from central Hong Kong, just across the border, or rather just across the harbor from me. And Ivan, protesters, they continue to jam the streets of Hong Kong, especially on a Monday, affecting commuters, affecting business. Describe what you've seen and the scene around you.
It's just a sea of humanity, of thousands and thousands of people chanting "Resign," referring to the chief executive of Hong Kong, CY Leung. I think the numbers are so huge that they're overwhelming cell phone networks and jamming up our ability to broadcast here and even do kind of basic things on your cell phone. The youth of these demonstrators has been striking from the beginning of this protest movement a week ago, when it was just a few thousand university students, and that has now swelled to numbers that have just completely coated the highway, the exit ramps, the on-ramps, the pedestrian overpasses, and the adjoining streets here in front of the government headquarters in downtown Hong Kong. And unlike the scenes late last night and before dawn this morning, when the security forces, the police, were out behind the barricades with their helmets, with their shields, periodically firing tear gas, now the police have largely withdrawn, and they are not the targets of the anger from the crowd. Instead, there is a big, festive, and remarkably well-mannered gathering here of young people who are sharing food, sharing water, and really just showing their defiance of the Hong Kong government and the central Chinese government as well. Christy.
Riot police have pulled back today. You're now seeing around you more of a festival atmosphere, but still, the protesters, despite being peaceful, they are defiant. They are angry against Beijing. We saw earlier today, not far from where you're reporting from right now, the flag of the People's Republic of China flying upside down there above the heads of the protesters. I mean, that is just such a serious affront to Beijing. How much fury, how much anger there among the protesters is directed squarely at China?
Well, just moments ago, the demonstrators carried through this big mock-up photo of the chief executive of Hong Kong, CY Leung, and they just, erupted in an applause. He's been an easy target of derision and anger, but the 800-pound gorilla, of course, is Beijing. It's the ruling Communist Party it's mainland China. And a refrain that I think you and I have both heard over the course of the protests that have grown over the past week is, we don't want Hong Kong to become just like any other Chinese city, meaning the people here, these young people, most of whom were born after the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests and massacre and crackdown, they're afraid that their freedoms are being incrementally stripped away, that a more authoritarian system of government is coming to this port city, this former British colony, and that is what is behind, that is a worry here. And as one senior opposition leader put it to me, if a Chinese military tank shows up in the streets here, I'll be the first person to come out with my bicycle and try and stand in its way. That is the big fear in the back of everybody's minds. What would Beijing do, which certainly wouldn't tolerate these shows of defiance and dissent on mainland China, but they are being tolerated for the time being here in Hong Kong.
And that was a very dramatic quote from your interview earlier today with Martin Lee, the pro-democracy icon here in Hong Kong. Now, Ivan, I understand that you've also talked with U.S. consular officials. What is the United States government saying about what's happening here in Hong Kong?
Well, the U.S. consulate put out a statement basically appealing for calm and for the respect of people's right to air their opposing political views and urging all sides, appealing for calm. The British government, of course, the former colonial ruler of Hong Kong, also put out a statement also underlining freedoms that it says should be enshrined according to a Sino-British agreement that was signed decades ago. The Chinese government has come out with its own statement basically saying that these protests are illegal and urging any external powers to avoid meddling in Hong Kong's internal affairs. Christy.
All right, CNN's Ivan Watson joining me live from the main protest site on Hong Kong Island. Thank you, Ivan. Now, what started as an effort to occupy the central business district has spread across the territory, even across the harbor here to the Kowloon side. Now, cars, I saw it earlier today, cars being used as street barricades. And while I was in the Mong Kok district, I didn't see a single police officer there. The protesters in Mong Kok here in Kowloon, they tell me that their mission is clear.
All I want, and all a lot of Hong Kongers want, is genuine universal suffrage, genuine democracy. We want nothing more than that. And anyone who tries to say that we want more than that and are wanting to create trouble do not understand Hong Kongers very well.
The protests forced schools and some businesses to close today, including banks, and Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index fell nearly 2% by the close on Monday amid all the unrest. Banking, retail, property stocks, they were some of the biggest losers. Now, the UK has expressed concern about the situation in Hong Kong. Remember, the territory was under British rule for more than 150 years before it was returned to China in 1997. And now, Hong Kong people, they're fighting to protect the freedoms promised to them in the handover. The red flag of China turned upside down, an act of defiance in Hong Kong. Since the 1997 handover from Britain to China, the territory has been ruled under the principle of one country, two systems, granting Hong Kong a range of liberties not seen in the mainland, from the freedom of speech to the right to protest. Protesters have been exercising those rights, challenging Beijing's decision to control who can run for the city's top official post, currently held by the beleaguered C.Y. Leung. Last week, thousands of Hong Kong students led peaceful boycotts and protests for free and open elections. One of the protest leaders, Joshua Wong, was arrested and later released.
I remember that when I was at the police station, I had more than 10 wounds. I just weigh about 100 pounds, but 10 police were there to arrest me. I was shocked. I thought they would only keep me for less than 20 hours. Neither the Occupy Central Trio nor the Federation of Students can stop this protest. C.Y. Leung is the only person who can call a stop to this.
On Sunday, the largely peaceful protests took a turn. Police in riot gear moved in on the demonstrators, using tear gas to disperse crowds it brought parts of the city to a standstill. To protect themselves, protesters wore goggles and masks and held umbrellas that was a symbol of the protest movement. These scenes shocked the world and residents of Hong Kong, a usually peaceful and stable financial center. Dozens were injured. According to a report in Chinese state media, Beijing says it is confident the Hong Kong government can handle the movement lawfully. It says it also opposes all illegal activities that, quote, could undermine rule of law and jeopardize social tranquility. Today, schools and banks in parts of central Hong Kong were closed, but pro-democracy protesters say they're not going anywhere.
As long as it takes, as long as there's one person that's still out here on this highway, I'm going to be here.
Fighting is the only thing we can do. We have no power. We either choose to be cowards or citizens in a free society. If you choose to be a coward, well, that's too bad. But if you don't want to be a coward, I think as a Hong Kong citizen, I should come out, do the little I can, and step up.
And more people have stepped up to join in. The protests here in Hong Kong have spread beyond the central business district, across the harbor here to Mong Kok Kowloon. The protesters here have been asking for CY Leung to step down. As the protest spreads, it's proven to be an even greater challenge for authorities already struggling to contain the anger. China's flag was flying upside down today above Hong Kong's main protest site, but it wasn't there for long. Now, as the protests spread, the question is, how much longer will Beijing tolerate such an affront to its rule? Well, China celebrates National Day on October 1. That's also a public holiday here in Hong Kong. It's part of so-called Golden Week. And since people will not have to work on Wednesday and Thursday, many expect that the protests will swell. Now, mainland visitors, they typically travel to Hong Kong during Golden Week, but even before the pro-democracy demonstrations, analysts predicted a drop in the number of mainland tourists. We should also note here that the Hong Kong government has just canceled the National Day fireworks display. It cites safety concerns caused by all the protests. Now you're watching a special edition of Newsstream. Still to come on the program, crowds of protesters still gathered in Hong Kong this hour. And after the break, we go live to the Chinese capital to get the view from Beijing.